and welcome to this brand new series of Off the Fence. This is Series 3, Episode 1. We are back. I'm absolutely delighted about that, and we will be kicking off very shortly with all the usual news, views from Barry Geraghty and Tony Keenan. But we have some very exciting news this season because we will now be working in association with BoyleSports. I am very excited that they have joined the Off the Fence show, and as a result, you'll be getting some price boosts along the way and some other offers too, so do stay tuned for that. And as always, please do like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode of Off the Fence, because we're going to have a terrific season 3. So without further ado, let's say hello to those boys. Tony Keenan, how are you?
I am good, and I will be very happy when I actually see this up on YouTube, because YouTube spent the last 5 minutes criticising my sound management, so I'll believe it when I see it and hear it.
Do you know what, Tony? When we start making some proper money from this show, we will send you over your own technician to work with you on a weekly basis, because I think that would just take all the stress and worry away. But Barry, no such tech issues at your end? All going well?
Managed to fluke it all, Vanessa, so yeah, it's going okay, but through no assistance of mine.
Okay, well look lads, let's kick straight on because we are going to start the show as always with the What Happened Where section. And this is where we look back at the weekend's action and we have cherry-picked some of the best of it to discuss with the boys. We're going to kick off with the Morgiana hurdle. State Man Barry Geraghty put down his first marker in the sand for his champion hurdle campaign. He's been price boosted to 8-1 from 6-1 for the champion hurdle off the back of his Morgiana win with BoyleSports. But does he jump well enough, Barry?
Well, it was a good performance, and it's what you would have expected from him on the back of what he did last season. He travelled well, he settled well, he quickened well, he won like a good horse. But people are questioning his jumping. He has actually had 6 runs over hurdles, albeit one of those was a fall. So he has a good level of experience. I think he's going to be better suited by a stronger pace where he's been towed along. But I don't think that's that big of an issue with his jumping. One small little thing you could pick up on, he actually jumped a little bit to his right going down the back. Whether that could come against him, obviously going somewhere like Cheltenham, going left-handed. But no, I'd be very happy with him, and I think his horse is open to plenty of improvement.
Okay, so a positive nod from Barry. But Tony, do you see this as Willie's champion hurdle hope?
Well, he doesn't seem to have anything as fit at the minute for the champion hurdle, by the sounds things. Like we had episode 443 of Trainer's Lay there over the last week, with him saying earlier in the week, midweek, that 6 horses were going to run. I don't think anyone really believed that. But the fact that only 3 turned up was one thing. But by the sounds of things yesterday, he looked very, very shifty when he was asked about Sir Geraghty and Vauban. They sound like they're a long way off a run. It all seems rather pointless to me. I know he's a history of doing this, maybe trying to scare opposition off and things like that, but there was no one really to scare off. There were only going to be 2 other potential runners, one of which was a double figure price and the other one which was a bigger double figure price. So it seems a little bit unnecessary. No one could really price it up during the week, because whatever way you priced it up, you were going to get filled in on the horses that were running. You'd barely know the race was on because there was no kind of buzz about it, no kind of market. I know these midweek markets aren't strong at all, but it's nice to see a few prices and things like that. And I hope this isn't going to be a team leading into Fairy House and Christmas and the Dublin Racing Festival, this kind of unnecessary cloak and dagger stuff with targets.
Yeah, we don't like that. The cloak and dagger we do not like. Let's move on to the Betfred Chase. Tony, will stick with you. Protektorat winning. A Plus Tard really disappointing. And Protektorat has now been put in at 14-1 for the Gold Cup with BoyleSports, and A Plus Tard now 9-2 with BoyleSports. What were your main takeaways from Haydock?
A Plus Tard was obviously fiercely disappointing. There were no obvious reasons for that flop, bar possibly the ground, but he has plenty of form in Ireland on soft ground. Everything else seemed right. The stable on the best form they've been in, I'd say, in over a year. Ground, I said, was a little bit of a worry. Trip was fine. He had much the best form. Just a disappointing effort. Didn't jump great, and Rachel Blackmore accepted things fairly quickly. Now, he's been on the road a long time now. I think this is his 5th season over fences. 2 Gold Cup runs, 2 Cheltenham Gold Cup runs, a couple of other big 3-mile chases. A little bit of a worry now, will he be able to get him back? But I was really impressed with the winner, Protektorat. I think it's right that he shortened up markedly for all these races. It was an excellent performance. Jumped brilliantly, but more so than anything else, and this is the reason why he may have improved, he settled a lot better. He could be very, very keen last year. I'm just thinking of that Aintree run where he kind of a tearaway effort. He did finish his race off there, but now that he's settled, you know, there is the possibility of more to come from him. I believe he's missing the King George and may have a run in January before going to Cheltenham, but yeah, really magnificent effort. I wouldn't be surprised if he kicks on from this. I'm sure Dan Skelton was absolutely delighted. He's been trying to beat Irish horse and race like this for a long time, and it's just good for the competitiveness that he's managed it, and he does have a proper horse to go to war with in these 3-mile grade ones going forward.
And Barry, do you view Protektorat as a soft ground specialist, and B, is he a genuine Gold Cup hope, or was that his Gold Cup?
Well, they said they trained him for that to be his Gold Cup, but he was third in the Gold Cup last year on good ground, or good to soft, but he definitely loves soft ground. I would say a soft ground Gold Cup would play to him. He was first run after a wind up as well, so he had a few positives. He was 11 lengths clear of Eldorado Allen, who was second to Brave Man's Game, beaten 3 lengths, giving him £3. He only had Sam Brown half a length behind him as well that day, whereas Frodon was 7.5 lengths. So it's a stronger level of form, and you'd have to be impressed with Protektorat, how he jumped, how he travelled. I think he'd be at his best on softer ground. As regards Appletard, I was a little bit worried about the ground, that it might just take the edge off him, but for me, he never turned up at all. You could see him after 3 or 4 fences. He wasn't jumping, he wasn't travelling. Whereas last year, he went through that race, he was doing a hack canter everywhere and pinging fences. So for whatever reason, very lacklustre. Hopefully something to come to light, but I wouldn't just lose faith in him yet.
Okay, we're not losing faith in him quite yet. Let's stick with you, Barry, because we want to focus in on Jonbon, who obviously made a terrific chasing debut in the week as well. Is now 9-4 for the Arkle, believe it or not. But what did you make of him on chase debut? What did you like? What could he improve on?
I thought he was very good. Monmoral jumped off from word go, and Jonbon is a keen going horse, and he jumped out to make it, and Monmoral went with him. They went hard. They had West Cork on the stretch from early, so it was a good jumping test, and Warwick is a good jumping test, and Jonbon, he put Monmoral to the sword. He had him well covered by the time he jumped the 5 fences down the side, and the further he went, the better his jumping got. He was very good over the last 2, so no, I was really impressed with him. Good solid performance, and he's a worthy favourite for the Arkle. He might be short enough, but what else is out there at the minute? If there's a question mark over Sir Gerhard, I wonder could he wind up back in the champion hurdle if he doesn't get his novice chase experience in time.
Ooh, interesting angle. Yeah, that would be intriguing. 9-4, Tony. 4 months out before that particular race. Would you be taking that price?
I wouldn't be in a rush to. I do think the maddest price over the last fortnight was how Monmoral was going to go off 7-4 or 2-1 for the graded race on the Saturday of Cheltenham. The way he was run over here last week, Jonbon did basically everything right. I think he had one mistake. I think the thing is that there aren't any other English novice chasers around. If you look back at the Supreme last year, what were the 9 runners in it? Constitution Hill has gone hurdling. You've got Kilcrut, who's going to run over 4. The Bring On the Night's going to stay on the flat. Like Dicer Dynamo and a few of these are going to come into it. Mighty Potter, both of those disappointed. Like they would have possibilities, you know, for Arkles and things like that. But you're going to have to do a hell of a lot of scrolling to find out the next English horse in the market, which I actually think at the moment is Monmoral. And Pentland Hills, I think, is following on after that. So there's no depth to that scene. You would expect that with Welby, and he's just going to rack up a sequence there and go against whatever Willie Mullins had. And Willie Mullins does a course of options there. We've Flame Bearer to come out yet. He seems he's going to start off over 2 miles. Possibly Appreciate It. Maybe El Fabiolo. But the Arkle, I suppose it's not the Arkle of 10-15 years ago where you'd have a really competitive race and loads of depth and things like that. Like the odds-on shot turning up, trained by one of the big yards, typically Nicky Henderson, has become the standard. And if it's priced a bit defensively, I think recent history would give good reasons why it is so.
Well, focusing in on the history angle though, just back to you very briefly, Barry. How would Jonbon compare, do you think, to the likes of Nicky's other top class novice 2-mile chasers?
I think he'd compare well. You know, he's a dual Grade 1 winner. He's plenty of former. He was definitely won Grade 1. He was second in the Supreme. He's a quality horse. He is, like, whether he's a Sprinter Sacra, I wouldn't necessarily say, or Simon Sig for that matter, but Finian's Rainbow, good horse like that. He's bang there, and I think he's a worthy favourite at the minute.
Okay, 9-4 with BoyleSports. Quickly want to cover a bit of Clonmel. It was Clonmel Oil Chase Day. Blue Lord managed to hang on from his stablemate Tornado Flyer, and Blue Lord is currently 16-1 with BoyleSports for the Ryanair Chase. Tony, would you have any interest in him this season for any of those top flight Grade 1s? And was there anything else that caught your eye at Clonmel?
I wouldn't, based on this run last Thursday. I'd be very lukewarm on this form. It was a particularly steadily run race. There were some 10 seconds slower than the mare's race, which is the guts of 40 lengths. Earlier on the card. That's just a massive difference, especially when the geldings should be much faster, and there wasn't any discernible difference in them late from 3 out. They weren't particularly quick. I think that mare's chase form though is going to prove very, very strong. The first thing I would say about the mare's race was that it was a very good example of where stable tours can be useful to you, because both Willie Mullins and Joseph O'Brien said that Ellie May and Scarlett and Dove respectively weren't ready. So the two of them were kind of trained in sub 2 to 1 in the morning. They didn't really drift an awful lot from that, so you were taking out the guts of 60% of the market if you wanted to bet something else. I think they were very straight in their comments about both of those, that they weren't ready. Of the two, I thought Scarlett and Dove ran the much better race. She made a mistake. I think it was 3 out, and then it was like 3 or 4 out, and she was rushed up back into it. Did very well to get back into it, and then kind of flattened out late. And while she's after finishing in a line with Ellie May, she's after running a much better race. Little bit sickening for connections of Ballyshannon Rose. She was having her derby there, I would say. She had 2 prep runs and was just kind of nutted on the line. Only mistake that she made was at the last, having jumped brilliantly, making the running. And I'd say they went, there's no say, they definitely went a good strong pace in that. She may have improved, but you just get the sense that she's missed her chance of winning a graded contest like this for the moment. Paul Townend, I have to say, I thought he was excellent on Dolceta. He sat out of the pace, and then it came through kind of with one run after the Dáil kind of played their hand. But she was getting a lot of weight from the winner. But I think this will prove quite a strong piece of form. You could even go down to a horse like Paul Nolan's there, Western Zara. His yard aren't going well at the moment. Like they'll come back at some stage. She made up a huge amount of ground, kind of from 2 out. She looked completely out of the race, leaving the back. So yeah, I'd definitely be keeping it. That'll be one of my strongest takeaways from last week, was that form should prove to be well worth following.
Okay, very intriguing. Barry, let's rattle through another few decent performances over here in the UK, specifically at Haydock Park. Hitman seems to have suddenly sparked a huge amount of interest for the King George off the back of his graduation chase win at Haydock on Saturday. He's now 6-1 for the King George with BoyleSports, but a more general 4s or 5s elsewhere. BoyleSports are being very generous to us on this show. 6-1 with them. Do you think that's a bit of a severe reaction to what we saw? We've seen plenty of him over fences, and all of a sudden he's right up there at the top of the market for one of the big showpiece Grade 1s over 3 miles this season. It just feels a little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'd feel the same. It was a nice performance. It's what you'd expected from an odds-on shot. But if he wasn't trained by anyone else, I wouldn't consider him for a King George anyway. But Paul Nicholls has won the King George with maybe not the fanciest horses in the world, so he has a chance for that reason. But from me, for that reason alone.
Okay. Trainer angle only. That 6-1 is boosted for you by BoyleSports. Elsewhere at Punchestown on Saturday, Tony, we saw Darren's Hope win the Florida Pearl for trainer Bob Murphy, a trainer who I must admit I don't think I'd ever even heard of prior really to Darren's Hope, and he's only got 2 in training, and he goes and wins a graded novice chase with her. I mean, pretty incredible.
Absolutely brilliant. More of this, please. I think she was having her 14th run over fences. They seemed to get a great kick out of it. So we did some lovely interviews afterwards. As a piece of form, I wouldn't think it's worth much. She's actually quite a tricky character. I'm being kind in saying that. She's a very awkward head carriage at times. As he said himself, she likes to go out and make it, and if she gets any kind of pace pressure at all, she's a habit of throwing it in. Thought it wasn't the greatest sign. Thought it wasn't the greatest sign of Manella Crooner, to be honest. He looked very laboured. Now he looked of the world of potential. Probably the best horse in the 2 mile 6 race at Dublin Racing Festival last year. Kind of hit the second last and was staying on. That form would have worked out well with the Manella Cocooner finishing second in the Albert Bartlett afterwards. But he looked laboured here. Give a flash of the tail. I think at the one just past the stands, or at the stand, sorry, when Jack, that was early in the race, and then he's got to the lead over 2 out, and you'd be thinking his stamina he'd be able to hold on, and he wasn't able to. So no, I didn't like this as a piece of form. And then of course the Devil's coachman come out that morning due to the ground, and Ida's boy made some terrible mistakes and was pulled up quite quickly. So no, as a piece of form, I'd tend to be against that when it's carried through to these graded races.
So as a story, it's a big yes, more please. But as a form line, it's we'll leave it, thank you. Barry Kilcrutt made his chasing debut. He's one of these horses that's slightly disappointed, I think it's fair to say, given what we hoped of him from back in his bumper days. But can we now see the best of him as an older horse and over fences now?
Well, yeah, there's potential for more anyway. It was a good performance. He jumped nicely. He got better as the race progressed. It was over 2.5 miles as well, which that obviously wasn't a problem for him. I think there's plenty of options for him. He's a 7-year-old rising 8, so he is going to get further. He could be even 3 miles, you wouldn't know. So he has plenty of options, but it was a good starting point. You'd be happy with how he jumped.
Okay, let's wrap up the What Happened Where section with best performances from the weekend. Barry, you can go first. Who was your best performance over, not just the weekend, you can go back further into the week if you'd like. I will allow that.
Yeah. No, I thought State Man, I was happy with him. It was a good performance, stepping in the right direction. Still has lots of potential, and I'd say improvement.
Okay, and what about you, Tony? What was your performance of the week?
I think it was Protektorat without any doubt.
Ah, okay. Very good. Very keen on Protektorat. One for the Brits. Love it. Those BoyleSports price boosts for you. So they've boosted State Man to 8-1 from 6-1 for the Champion Hurdle. They've boosted Hitman from 4-1 to 6-1 for the King George on Boxing Day. And they've boosted Protektorat from 10-1 for the Gold Cup all the way out 4 points to 14-1. So loads of value for you with BoyleSports. It's a £50 max stake, singles only, T's and C's apply, so please do read them. And before we move on from reviewing the weekend's action, we can now catch up with BoyleSports' own Leon Blanche to see what their view of the sport was from the weekend.
It promised to be a very intriguing weekend of racing. However, we lost some of Jumps Racing's biggest stars. Constitution Hill, Edwardstone, Lawn Press didn't run at Ascot, but 2 horses who certainly did and did their Cheltenham credentials no harm whatsoever. Protektorat, such a hugely impressive winner at Haydock. Yes, a Plutard didn't run his race. Hopefully nothing serious will come to the fore, but Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton, brilliant for them. And Protektorat jumped from fence to fence. He's a 14-1 chance from 25-1 to win the blue ribbon of Jumps Racing, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And then we moved over to Punchestown on Sunday. It was the young pretender, State Man, a 5-year-old winner, of course, of the county hurdle. Then went on to the Punchestown Festival and won a Grade 1 novice hurdle. He was up against Sharjah, who of course had won the Morgiana 2 times already, bidding for a third. But State Man, he was very, very impressive under Paul Townend. For trainer Willie Mullins, owner Joe Donnelly, 6-1 from 8-1 for the Champion Hurdle in March. They were the 2 horses at BoyleSports that we were taught were very, very impressive indeed.
BoyleSports has it all. Money back meetings every day. UK and Irish racing live streaming. Extra places and money back all losers offers. And a bet 10 get 20 welcome offer. BoyleSports, this is betting.
Thanks very much to Leon from BoyleSports for those views, and we can now move on to everyone's favourite section of the show. This is Offence. What did we take offence to this week? Well, I think a lot of jumps racing fans were fairly annoyed, disappointed, like just let down after the weekend, because of course we were so looking forward to seeing lots of decent top class horses come out at Ascot specifically, including Edwardstone, L'Homme Presse, but of course mainly Constitution Hill. None of them ran because of the ground, and it was all left in a bit of a mess after Nicky Henderson decided to take Constitution Hill out at the kind of the 11th hour, and he sort of bore the brunt of the media and the public's annoyance, I think it's fair to say, Tony. But did he deserve the stick he's got? Can he make the decisions he wants and go about it in a better way?
I think it would be better for everyone if Nicky Henderson just stopped doing these interviews. If he wants to take the horse out, fine. That's his decision, but the persistent interviews are just fanning the flames, I think, a little bit. They're really bizarre. They've got this strange kind of a pleading tone where he says it's a nightmare, it's really sad. It throws out his whole programme. Like, are we supposed to feel sorry for him here or something? Like, the horse is fine. There's a perfectly satisfactory option for the horse on Saturday if he chooses. There's another one in Cheltenham in a couple of weeks. You know, that shouldn't be knocking out the horse's programme. It may not be ideal in that he's taken on a stablemate of his, but that's how it is. I wouldn't be happy with some of the language that he's using around welfare, though. I think that he just needs to rein that in a bit. Like this line that he's had on Sky Sports Racing with Matt Chapman about he could have been wounded in his box. It's not a welfare issue. It's an issue around deciding where he wants to run the horse, and it's wrong to present it as otherwise. In this specific case, was he wrong to pull him out? Possibly not. Because I do accept in this case that lots of other trainers felt the same. Alan King was very, very forceful in his comments about Ascot, I think in yesterday's paper, or was today's paper, about how he'd a lot of horses coming back with injuries from Ascot recently. Now, I would like that fact-checked a little bit, but it was a very strong comment. But look, it does still reflect, like, Nicky Henderson, like, sometimes doesn't want to run horses in good races for the smallest of reasons. And in one of his interviews also, he was bemoaning, I think, that the Contenders hurdle at Sandown wouldn't be run this year because it's such an ideal prep for his champion hurdle horse. That race is a complete waste of time. It's a brilliant move to remove that race. And I think the BHA deserve a clap on the back for that, and let's just forget about it. Don't want this to come across just as anti-Nicky Henderson, because it's not. Like Willie Mullins did the same at Navan the week before with Flame Bearer and Fernie Hollow. I would say possibly flaky reasons when the ground was kind of on the slow side. But there is a big difference. There is a difference anyway, I think, between Mullins and Henderson. Now, Mullins' sense not to do interviews broadly after, I think, is one thing. But the other thing is, I think the Irish racing can take those couple of non-runners. If you're at Navan that day or watching on TV, yes, it detracted from the card, but the Fortria Chase was still a reasonable race. The Flame Bearer Novice or Beginner's Chase was still a reasonable race without the two. Whereas I think taking Constitution Hill out and L'Homme Presse and Edwardstone, it drastically reduced the competitiveness. Look, both Henderson and Mullins are brilliant trainers, but it can also be true that I don't think either have been particularly good for the competitiveness of the sport for different reasons. Nicky Henderson, because I do think he's a little bit precious around running the horses, and Willie Mullins is a little bit too dominant in terms of just kind of stuff we talked about earlier about the Morgiana.
Yeah.
Look, it's not up to them to change. Like they're too long in the tooth to change probably, but they're just setting things up to win as many races as possible and to win as many big races as possible. It would be nice if the authorities, structured maybe races in such a way that got them competing a bit more, because they really aren't going to change. And I think using the kind of excuses, I remember a famous line by Michael Jordan. One journalist was asking him one day, now I hate sometimes comparing sports, especially human sports and kind of equine sports, but someone asked him, you play hard every night, even if it's the worst regular season game, you have 82 of these games a year, do you never think of giving yourself a night off? Well, his attitude was that he says, that might be the only time that the person who comes to see that game gets to see me live. I want to kind of give them a bit of a show, something to see. I think we're getting away from that a bit. I don't know. He was the most ruthless person of all time. Like, I said it was the only sentimental comedy he ever made in his life. Like, but I think in national hunt racing, we're kind of getting away from that, forgetting that competition is the heart of it. Like, the sport can be so inherently dramatic. Like, even that race, like the Cool Cody's in Calvados, like, objectively it wasn't a very good race. You had a bleeder in St Calvados and Cool Cody coming off a terrible run in Cheltenham, and yet the two horses, like, it became dramatic in and of itself. Like, how dramatic can it be when these really good horses run against each other? And I appreciate you can't have the All-Ireland final every day of the week. You can't have Shishkin versus an Ergumin all the time. But like, there seems to be no real reason why you couldn't have Constitution Hill versus Epperton next weekend. Like, you look at the John Durkin last year, an early season race that was really competitive. What a race. I know it was a little bit slow ground, but basically all those horses kind of kicked on from it. It doesn't need to be season ruining. So hopefully a little bit more competitiveness over the next couple of weeks, but I'm not holding out much hope.
No, neither am I. I'm a little bit worried that this might have set the tone for the coming few weeks. But
one last thing. I always come back to trying to get a few quid out of this, the punting angle and stuff like that.
Love it.
And look, there is a possible way to play this. Like, you possibly could try and just bet on Nicky Henderson horses not to turn up. Like, someone maybe chancing something against Constitution Hill midweek in the hope that it was going to be dry and he was going to pull him out. I think at the minute he sounds a little bit iffy on running Shishkin in the Tingle Creek. I think he's already sent out a few things. He might run, he might not run. It's a sort of a tepid target, so maybe there's an angle there in the Tingle Creek to bet something other than Shishkin, who may or may not run. We'll see soon enough.
Okay. Barry, I want to get your views on this and reaction to what Tony said there, because of course you're very close with not only Nicky Henson's team but Constitution Hill as well. So your immediate reactions to what happened this Saturday, but also the wider picture in terms of the sort of fallout since Nicky Henson gate on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I think Tony makes a good point as regards maybe the number of horses and the quality of horses not being there, so they can't afford to lose anything out of a race, really. But the problem in Ascot was good to soft in places. But good to soft in November versus good to soft in March is very different. If you go down 4, 5, 6 inches in the ground now, it would be like concrete down below, because the water table is so low, the moisture isn't there. You have it in March, then you go down 6 inches, there's lots of moisture because it's had the winter's rain. So that's the first point. That's where the ground isn't comparable from November to March, albeit it's described the same. As regards then Constitution Hill, you know, he was a non-runner. You heard Alan King's thoughts as well. Horses jarred up on the Friday, didn't want to run. Nicky then of course gets all the abuse he gets for not running the horse. For me, it was there was no decision, and I was speaking with Michael Buckley on Saturday morning, and for them there was no decision to be made. But Nicky, for a different reason, didn't run Shishkin in the Tingle Creek last year, and that decision was vindicated then when we got the race of the season on the back of that in the Clarence House against an Ergumin. So it's so important to mind these horses. Paul Nichols says run them on. But yet he took Quel d'Estaing out on Saturday as well for unsuitable ground. Maybe he's a horse who had an injury somewhere in the past, because that would lead me then to the next point, is a very wise man who said, you know, if you look after the horses who aren't injured or haven't had an injury, as well as the fellas who've had an injury, you might have less injuries as well. So I don't know, for me, Nicky did the right thing. He put the horse first.
It's really interesting what you say about, you know, for people who haven't ridden or are not involved in a yard or trainers. Like, I wouldn't walk tracks very often. It's very interesting to hear what you say about the difference of spring good to soft ground and the current good to soft ground and that water table factor. I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration, but valid points from both of you. But it moves us nicely on to the week ahead, Barry, because of course Constitution Hill not running on Saturday at Ascot means that he might run at Newcastle on this coming Saturday in the Fighting Fifth, live on Sky Sports Racing. And now Epperton, his stablemate, is the 4-6 favourite with BoyleSports. Constitution Hill next best at 6-5. Not so sleepy in there, 4-1. Pied Piper 4-1, intriguing. Do you think Constitution will run up at Newcastle? Is that likely, or is this just a dream at this point?
I'd say there could be every chance. He was obviously left in on Monday morning, so he has the option to run. His other option is to wait for the international hurdle, but if he goes there, he's probably less likely to make Christmas. So if he goes to the international hurdle, he doesn't make Christmas, and then he probably waits for Haydock at the end of January, and there is 2 runs before the champion hurdle. Or does he go for the fighting fifth? He goes to Christmas, and he could go to Haydock as well. So that's the decision that has to be made. But I'd say there is every good chance he could. The ground at the minute in Newcastle is soft. There's rain forecast for during the week. Who knows what's going to happen in Cheltenham? I'm not saying it's going to get quick, but if the horse missed a week or missed time, it could be a brave shout to wait. Whereas if he's ready to go, maybe Newcastle might be the place to go.
If you know Epatante well, obviously, but you know Constitution Hill really well, realistically, 2 miles around Newcastle on that sort of ground, who would be better suited in your eyes, given that Constitution Hill was about to make his seasonal debut over further at a very different track at Ascot?
Yeah, well, the further wouldn't make any difference really. The ground being on the soft side, I think will be more in Constitution Hill's favour than Epatante. She's a very good mare, but she is better on slightly better ground. So as I say, there is rain forecast as well. Maybe it could get worse than soft, I'm not sure. But you'd have to take, like, Constitution Hill is the horse on the up. Epatante is a champion hurdle winner. She was second in the champion hurdle last year. She is a very good mare. She won an Aintree as well. But, you know, you'd have to go with the young pretender.
Okay, let's do a very quick mention for the Coral Gold Cup down at Newbury. Remastered in there, looking to right the wrong of last year at about 11-2 with BoyleSports. Corrick Rambler 5-1 with BoyleSports. Does anything jump out the page at you at this current time? Tony, we'll come to you first.
It doesn't really. Vanessa Ryle in there. Hewitt form line from Listowel. I was very struck with Joshua Bryan's comments that he's kind of a little bit annoyed that he couldn't run this horse in the Grand National this season because he's too young. So he seems to have no worries about his jump, and he is a very assured jumper for a young horse. So just interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, bit of Irish interest. And what about you, Barry? Did anything jump out at you at this stage?
I like Corrick Rambler. I think he did very well to win at Cheltenham on the old course. I think Newbury played to his strengths, but also Fiddler on the Roof, who was second last year, really surprised me what he could do over that trip. He's actually only 8-year-old, so there's plenty of potential still in him. So yeah, no, I think Fiddler on the Roof has a shout, but I like Corrick Rambler as well.
Only an 8-year-old. Feel like he's been around for a very long time. BoyleSports have another offer for you here. BoyleSports will be offering money back second on the SP favourite at Newbury on Friday and Saturday. We'll also have extra places in the Coral Gold Cup as well as the Troy Town on Sunday. So loads of value to be had with BoyleSports over the weekend. And I think that about wraps up the show, guys. So thank you very much for your contributions as always. Thank you very much for watching us, everyone out there. Please do hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, because that way you won't miss a single episode. And we always appreciate your comments and feedback. So do get in touch on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You know the drill by now. But it's great to be back. Season 3, episode 1 done and dusted. Please join us next week, where we will be reviewing all the weekend's action, but of course looking ahead to the Tingle Creek and the BoyleSports Beecher Chase at Aintree as well. So loads to get stuck into next week. Hopefully you'll be able to join us, but for now, have a good week, everyone.